Hey everyone, welcome to Locked on Lakers for Friday. Brian Kamenetsky with special guest Jacob Rude. Vando. That's next.
You are Locked on Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked on Lakers your first listen to every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends. No matter how or where you get your podcast, this one's always going to be free and never behind a paywall. Locked on Lakers on YouTube is over 22,000 subscribers are all hanging out. And at least for one night, Jacob Rude of Silver Screen and Roll filling in for Andy Kamenetsky, who is doing post-game radio for ESPN LA out here, the station that carries the games. At least for one night, Jacob, celebrating what looked for, I'll say 40 minutes. A pretty convincing win. That was exactly what the Lakers needed against a sub-500 Bulls team before heading out for this 6-game road trip. So it looked good and also high.
Hi. It was one of those games where I saw on Twitter and whatnot that the Kings and Warriors were having a real fun ending, and I was like, well, this game's a blowout, but also I don't know how many of these we're gonna get this season. So I kind of want to enjoy just having fun watching a game, and lo and behold, the last, like you said, 8 minutes or so weren't exactly fun, but it still ended up being relatively comfortable, a victory in that one. So that was maybe one of the most fun games of the season. Just they were throwing anything and everything in, and man, when D'Lo gets going, when Vando's flying around like that, this team's a lot of fun, and it reminds you of how fun last season was at the end of the year too.
Yeah, it kind of was, and it's last 8 minutes aside, when it got a little too, but you talk about just throwing up everything and having it go in, from the Lakers shot 61% from the floor in this game, and we're actually better from a 3-point range. And so, 64.5% from three. They got the line. They made 75% of their free throws. Really, the only thing that Chicago did better than them throughout the game was getting to the free throw line. Chicago kind of kept it close there with 29 free throws. But I mean, on the one hand, they post 141 points. I can't say I'm totally satisfied on a night where they shoot 64.5% on 20 made threes. It's not like they made 6 or something like that. And you only walk away with a 9-point lead. And even if it was 12 or 15, it was one of these games that I think perfectly encapsulates why the Lakers are where they are. On the one hand, great performances from D'Angelo Russell and Jarred Vanderbilt, which we're going to get into in a second, because Vanderbilt was a story, I think, before the game, thanks to a great question in the pregame press conference from Andy while he was doing his radio work. So he was a big topic before the game. He was a big topic during the game, because that second quarter where the Lakers blew the game open was a Jarred Vanderbilt quarter. But on the one hand, they have this incredible offensive night with really balanced scoring and all this other stuff. And on the other, they give up 132 points, and they didn't close strong. It was this kind of feels like why they're a 500 team.
Yeah, exactly. As Stu said late in the game, you're not going to give up 132 points and win many games. Fortunately, the Lakers 20 of 31 from three is wild. just looking at that, especially from this Lakers team that has struggled shooting the ball. I might have overreacted in the preseason and written about maybe this could be the best 3-point shooting Lakers team in franchise history. And ironically, they are still on pace to be the second or third best, which really says more about how bad the Lakers have been as a 3-point shooting team in franchise history. But this is, I think, the best they've looked offensively. I also don't think it's probably a coincidence that Vando was out there for 27 minutes, and this was the most Vando game he's the most he's looked like Vando in a while, and I've said that more and more. Like he's looking this. I think he's just kind of back to being fully healthy, and he has that explosiveness, and he's able to fly around the court. And the Lakers need that, especially with that kind of starting group. And as you said, it was at that second quarter. It was that group that went on that wild run. I tweeted, I think it was the first time in about a decade the Lakers closed a quarter well, and it was that second quarter where they were, and it was that starting lineup from the playoffs last year that did it. But yeah, you can't rely on scoring 141 points. It seems like they kind of oscillate, not this good offensively, but they're either good offensively or good defensively, and they haven't too often put them both together, which is why they're a 500 team. But I mean, there's still enough moments where you kind of look at this roster and this team, and I still think there's a good team in there. It's so hard to figure it out and find out why these pieces haven't been clicking.
It is very hard to walk away from the potential of the team. Mm-hmm. Because they closed this trip, this homestand, critical 10-game homestand, and it's 6-4. Mm-hmm. And on the one hand, it's like they needed to be better. Like they needed this trip to be, or this homestand to be 7-3, 8-2, and all that. And I don't think anybody denies, that this was a missed opportunity. But on the other hand, they did beat some good teams on this homestand. It's the Brooklyn game and stuff like that really sticks out. Like, what the heck? That's why you think the Lakers have, to me at least, a ceiling on what they can do. It's because of stuff like that. The lack of consistency to beat the Clippers, to beat Oklahoma City, to beat a Toronto team that was playing pretty well, and then you beat Dallas. And others say you lose to the Clippers without LeBron, game effort, no problem. I can live with that. But how the hell do you blow that game against Brooklyn? That's the stuff that sticks with me. And why I can't figure out, why I can't completely commit to, like you say, there's a good team in there somewhere, but can they excavate it enough to get where they want to go?
It's one of those things where I wonder how much different we would feel about this homestand if they just won the Brooklyn game. Yeah. And I'm certainly not trying to erase that, because that was by far the worst game that they've had this season, just from a kind of energy and effort level. And just that third quarter was bizarre, watching how that played out. And so I wonder how much differently we would feel if they just played the second half in that game, basically, and they come away 7-3 with all those wins you mentioned. And
maybe 24-22, which looks a lot different than 23-23 going out on a 6-game trip. It's yes.
And you would have won 4 of your last 5. The only loss being that Clippers game. Your last 2 losses would have been without LeBron, and that's it. But also, that's, like you said, that's the makeup of this team, is that you mix in those wins against OKC and the Clippers with the Brooklyn loss, or that Grizzlies loss, or whatever it may be, that loss in New Orleans that was atrocious. And so I don't know what to make of this team. I still want to believe that there's pieces there. I like a lot of the guys on this team, but I mean, kind of facts are what they are. And at this point, this is very much a 500 team, I think.
Metaphorically, literally, spiritually, everything. It is a 500 team.
Yes.
All right. You talked a little, we talked a little bit about Jarred Vanderbilt and his performance. 17 points off the bench, 8 of 11 from the floor. As aggressive as I've ever seen Jarred Vanderbilt play in a Lakers uniform, 17 points was his Lakers high. 3 steals, a block shot, and a major catalyst in that second quarter run that pushed the Lakers, kind of in control of the game. His presence in the lineup, where it is, how many minutes he plays, what Taurean Prince does, how many minutes he plays. These are huge moments of controversy for Lakers fans. And we got a little bit of clarity in terms of well, maybe not. Like the balance sort of maybe almost looked like it was going to be there on Thursday, but you look at the box score and it might not be. We'll get to that next. Locked On Lakers brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On fantasy basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. This is a very important thing for me because I'm in the most competitive fantasy basketball league that anybody has ever seen, ever. It is absurd. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit your rosters. Let's see who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. You got, hey, how about Brandon Miller, a guy I just traded for in our league? It's a keeper league. I am just so excited about this, and I am even more excited that he appears on Josh's list. Miller should be seeing a huge uptick in minutes with Terry Rozier shipped out. That makes him a must-roster player in fantasy. If he's not on your roster, he needs to be. And if you are in a keeper league like I am, I'm just going to improvise here. I'm going to say Josh would want you to figure out a way to get yourself Brandon Miller. One more for you. That is another guy on my team. Slavan Waferdenko is the name of my team. So I think immortalizing two of my favorite Lakers. Nick Richards with Mark Williams out. He doesn't seem to be coming back anytime soon. The backup center in Charlotte is Richards, and he has played quite well at center, putting up real solid fantasy numbers. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is all about each player being a perfect fit. It's the same thing with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure that your ride stays running smoothly at all times. You need brake kits, LED headlights, a roof rack, 2 roof racks. How many roofs do you got on your car? Whatever your baby needs inside the car and out. The baby is the car, not a literal baby. The baby, just keep that in mind. eBay Motors has it. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, it is guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, available only to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions apply. Okay, so Jarred Vanderbilt, is sort of symbolically, I think, at the core of most complaints that Lakers fans have about this season in Darvin Ham, Taurean Prince. The other half of that symbolic disgruntlement with the way that Darvin runs a rotation. And on the one hand, Jarred Vanderbilt got a lot of run, 27 minutes tonight, good amount of time on the floor for Vanderbilt. He was back on the floor at the end of the game and all that kind of stuff. And, really was a positive contributor. The flip side is Taurean Prince still played more minutes, and that is going to be something that frustrated. I kind of just missed. It felt like Vanderbilt was out there more, but Taurean 30 minutes, Vanderbilt 27. Granted, Darvin really played essentially a 7-man rotation in terms of anybody playing meaningful minutes. Christian Wood played 12. Max Christie played 9. Some of that coming at the end, near the end. And the rest of it were the 5 starters. Hachimura played 19 and Vanderbilt played 27. When you look, Jacob, at this Vanderbilt usage thing, particularly as it relates to Taurean Prince and the seeming distrust that Darvin has for last year's starting lineup, whether it's starting or just used, period, at any point in the game. It's not that they're not starting and being used at other points. They're not playing together as a 5-man unit at all. They did a little bit on Thursday. What do you make of this? Like, what is your thought on whether or not Vanderbilt should be starting, how much he should be playing, whether Prince should be out of the lineup? I know you've talked about this on Silver Screen and Roll.
Yeah, I looked it up while you were talking. That lineup this season, which includes tonight, the playoff lineup, LeBron, AD, Russell, Vando, Reeves, has played 11 minutes this season.
Most of it was Thursday.
Yeah, it's inexplicable, really. I say this as someone who is at least earlier in the season, I was defending Darvin when the questions kind of first started because they didn't really have an opportunity early in the season to play that lineup. Vando was hurt, and he took him a long time to work back. He said that he was playing injured. It took him quite a while to get back up to speed, and then D'Lo's out for a while. All these guys are kind of mixing in and out. I kind of gave him a pass early on. It's inexplicable. This lineup just doesn't play. Like, I know that they had to change the lineup once it got to the Nuggets series. That lineup didn't work, but that's still a lineup that got you to the Western Conference Finals. I don't really understand why they don't go to it. I am someone that has defended Taurean Prince as well. I think his greatest crime is that he's overused, and that that's not anything he can really control. And so I wonder, I hope maybe that the last couple games, Vando has been really good. I thought he played really well against the Clippers, even though he really struggled on some of those offensive putbacks and just getting the ball knocked away. But I thought he played really well against the Clippers, played really well against on Thursday. So I hope it's kind of a turning point. This is about as close as their minutes have been this season. It's the second most minutes Vando's
and they played some together. I mean, I think
they
a lot
closed
of times,
the game together.
Right. A lot of times Lakers fans, and Reeves was on the bench. A lot of times Lakers fans look at this as an either or situation. It does not need to be. They can, and you can make an argument, perhaps should even play together based on, if you want a little more size than Reeves can provide, for example, but still want 3-point shooting, then you can take Reeves off the floor and instead of Prince. And so, I'm like you. I gave Darvin, a little bit of leeway here because, why didn't that lineup play more at the beginning of the season? Well, it literally was impossible.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt was clearly not himself, not playing really, and not playing to the level of energy that they need from him. But it was about maybe a week ago, Andy and I were talking about this, and it's like, now I just want to say, I don't care who starts necessarily. I am more agnostic on that than a lot of fans are. The Lakers, generally speaking, their first quarter problems have mitigated, I think, some. Like these horrible starts are more in the rearview mirror than they were at the beginning of the season. But I want to see what the minutes breakdown looks like. Like, at this point, there's really no reason for Prince to be playing 33 or 34 minutes a night. And I agree with you. He's been fine. Taurean Prince is playing exactly like you would expect him to play when you sign him. He's like catching strays because people are so mad at Darvin for the amount of minutes that he's playing. And Vanderbilt needs to play more, particularly when he's playing like he did on Thursday. So you said it was inexplicable. And I kind of agree with you. Andy asked Darvin this question, and Darvin tried to make it explicable, I guess. So the question was playoff lineup. So this is what Andy asked him. He said the playoff lineup last year of D'Lo, Reeves, Vando, and LeBron and AD, even acknowledging the injuries that have taken place, is one you haven't really gone with much this year. Are there elements about it that you think may not work as well this year, or things you saw in the playoffs that have made you go away from it more? How Andy put this question, we've talked about this year, because I'm a big believer, Jacob, in last year is last year, this year is this year. You cannot just say because something worked last year, it would work exactly the same last year. Andy opened the door for Darvin to be like, you can't treat. Okay. It's a well asked question, well framed, acknowledging even that it's like not coming at you like you're an idiot or you're a jerk or whatever. Darvin's response: not really, man. I think it's just the way things have shaken out. Taurean has been one of our most durable guys. This is true. And one of our better 3-point shooters. Also true. With LeBron and AD playing the brand of basketball that they play. Even this morning, we showed a clip of AD playmaking in the post. He had three guys around him, and so much spacing. And so much spacing and shooting as you can put around them, the better. Okay. That part I think fans can live with. It's like there are a lot of defensible reasons to both start and play Taurean real minutes on this team. But having said that, it was unfortunate Vando had to miss time, that he missed at the outset of the season. It's been a whole entire process getting him back healthy. Now getting him back into game shape, as you can see, he went crazy on the offensive glass for the game against the Clippers. Some of the plays he's making, the passing lanes, the deflections, switching on perimeter threats, interior threats, he's rounding back into form. So, you never know. You just got to take things day by day. At some point, it's good to know, though, that we have that option if we should want to push that button. I mean, they pushed it a little bit on Thursday, but when we come back, Jacob, I want to ask you whether you think they're going to push it more going forward, and whether they should. Like how much Jarred Vanderbilt should play, and where you get kind of a diminishing return on Vando is definitely a big topic of discussion among Lakers fans. So I want to get into all that, and we'll do it next. Locked on Lakers also brought to you by Grammarly. Writing is really hard, and that is true of whether or not you're a professional wordsmith, somebody who's paid to make words, or you're doing this at work. You're trying to make emails, whatever it is, putting proposals together, trying to come up with different ideas to innovate in your company. And when it comes to writing, Grammarly is there to support you from start to finish. And for over 10 years, Grammarly has been powered by AI technology you can trust to help you across all the places where you write the most. And now Grammarly helps you do even more. With one click, you can easily brainstorm, rewrite, and reply with suggestions based on your context and goals. So you can improve productivity for you and your teams. It's not about AI doing the work for you. It's about you getting kind of like a personal assistant to help you with a lot of the things that can be really, really painful when you're trying to make the words work, when you're trying to get the right thing down on paper, when you're just trying to reply to an email in a coherent way. Can help polish your writing, paraphrase things for you to make it more concise and a little tighter. That is something, that again, professional writers need. You can always make things a little bit better, and Grammarly will help you with that. And the best part is it's free to use. So start being more productive at work. Go to Grammarly.com/podcast to download for free today. That's Grammarly, GRAMMARLY.com/podcast. Locked on Lakers also brought to you by Logix. On this show, and Jacob, you get a lot of in-depth analysis. That's true. And hot takes. Well, let me give you my hottest take of the day. The best lineup in LA and the surrounding areas right now is the lineup of auto loans at Logix. They start off at the top with my favorite, the proven and dependable new and used vehicle loan. You can count on these guys to give you low rates and save you big time bucks. Next up, they've got an exciting new rookie sensation in their electric vehicle loans with super low rates and flexible payment terms. And rounding out their lineup, they've got their auto refinancing loans and lease buyout loans. With these guys, you could lower your monthly payments and get on the road to owning your car faster. So I know it's a hot take, but seriously, no one can beat the lineup at Logix. Visit your local Logix branch right here in LA and the surrounding areas and let one of their amazing team members help you, or just apply online in minutes at logixbanking.com/car. That's LOGIX banking.com/car. What is the right amount of minutes? What is the right mix that you see in this with Vanderbilt, Prince, presumably, hopefully a fewer minutes for LeBron, and Rui Hachimura is in there. When you look at this rotation, how would you draw it up, Jacob?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent it should fluctuate game by game, but there should be a baseline there. I think that with Torian, maybe there should even be a cap that once you get past like 30 minutes or so on most nights, that's when you're hitting your point of diminishing return. With
For
Vando,
Torian.
Yeah, with Torian, sorry. With Vando, I think he needs to be out there at least 20, 25 minutes a night, probably, now that he's fully back and healthy, and you can play it by ear a little bit and see how he's doing and how teams are guarding him, things like that. I think their minutes should be a lot closer than what they've been this season. And I think Vando probably should be playing more. Like we were saying earlier, I think that maybe playing them together might be, it doesn't feel like something they've done a lot this season. I think probably one of their better defensive lineups would be having the two of them out there, and letting Vando kind of chase guys around a little bit. But they played, I was wrong. They played 207 minutes together. It's a minus 3.7 net rating.
With
but
Vanderbilt and Prince have played 207 minutes together.
Yeah, shockingly.
Oh, man, that is way more than I would have expected.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it, but I would still go with them more. And now, certainly now that Vando looks like this, and that he looks fresher, better, healthier, fully ready to go. I said this earlier. I really hope we've kind of turned a corner with Vando and that he's here now. He's back. And hopefully that also means we've turned a corner with using that lineup more. We've just the discussion on LeBron's minutes have just been tabled, even though that the minutes haven't gone down, and that is still worrisome. He's still routinely clocking 35, 36, 38 minutes per night, and it feels like 3 seasons ago that everybody freaked out when he only played 30 minutes against the Nuggets on opening night. And so
it turns out Darvin was actually correct about that. Like,
Yeah,
ideally
100%.
they could keep him to 30 to 32 minutes. They didn't hold to it, and I don't think anybody expected that they would. But this was actually one of those times where everybody kind of laughed and rolled their eyes, but he was actually right.
Yeah, 100%. And in theory, they had the depth to do it. Not having Vando at the time hurt and kind of trying to integrate guys throughout the season. I would like to see him get back down to that 32-minute range. 30 minutes always felt kind of ambitious for him to play during the regular season. We're also getting to a point, LeBron's talked before, where he likes to kind of ramp up into the postseason. So he's probably not going to be down with the idea of taking his minutes down a bunch. But still, I think you can, for the next month or so, take them down to 30, 31, 32 minutes.
Ideally,
especially
if you can win enough games.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's been the other problem is it's easy to keep his minutes down when you're winning games. It's a lot harder when you're losing and you need him in the game to try to have a comeback. But yeah, now that Vando's back, Rui's healthy, Prince is healthy, all these guys are healthy. There's really no reason for LeBron to be playing those big minutes. So that's where I think you can get more minutes for Vando, more minutes. I'd like to see Rui play more than 19 minutes, but I think more than anyone, his game kind of fluctuates based on whether he's making shots or not. And he had some really rough games in the last week or so where he really struggled coming back from injury. So he looked good tonight. And if he's kind of back and into a rhythm, I would be chopping down LeBron's minutes, 2, 3, 4 minutes off of that, giving a lot of them to Rui. And then suddenly you're at kind of 23, 24, 25 minutes for Rui, 27 for Vando, and 30 for Prince. And if all three of those guys are in that area, I don't think that feels ideal. I don't think you can have a lot of complaints on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's like night to night, people are going to micromanage and complain, whatever. Yeah. Like night to night, okay. Some nights one guy should play more than the other, whatever. But it feels like at this point going forward, as long as these guys are healthy, that it should kind of in the aggregate be about the same for all three of them. And some of this, I feel like it's not just a function of, because I don't think Darvin dislikes, has a problem with Vanderbilt or just doesn't like. I think he very much trusts what Vando does more than say what Rui does. I think he's got much less patience for Hachimura, who, to be fair, has, I don't think, played particularly well this year. You can blame it on Darvin and the inconsistency and the injuries, whatever. At some point, the player's got to take some responsibility for it. I find Vanderbilt fascinating because on the one hand, like the energy and the lift that he gave the team at the end of the first quarter and into the second quarter was tangible. He got them going faster. He got the defense. It was the one quarter where they played pretty good defense, and they generated points off of that. But it is easy. Like, he played really hard against the Clippers too, and like all these offensive rebounds and this and that. But then there's the turnover that he throws out of bounds, and then the missed layups and all that. It's really easy to kind of fall in love with the energy and the effort and the spirit of Jarred Vanderbilt and overlook or excuse like results that where you look at the, you look up and like the guy's everywhere and he's like, and he's a -6. So
that's how I felt on, was it Tuesday when they played the Clippers, that like on one hand, he was all over the floor. He was flying around. He was grabbing offensive rebounds, and then he was 4 of 10. He had a couple turnovers, and like ultimately he ended up being a -9. And it was like, on one hand, he's definitely trying really hard, and he's definitely has this level. I think he has this infectious energy that does impact the guys he's on the floor with. And maybe that matters more if the guy he's on the floor with is LeBron in the starting lineup. But on one hand, he has this level of infectious energy, but on the other hand, like he's just such a, like you said, fascinating, intriguing player, because I don't know that there's anybody in the league like him, where he has so many like limitations to him offensively that I think the Lakers have done a really good job of kind of changing where he's getting looks from. And it's not as simple as putting him in the corner, which he actually did do on Thursday and hit a 3-pointer.
He did, but he only took one.
Yeah, exactly.
This idea of Jarred Vanderbilt becoming a guy who can knock down a 3-and-D guy, a corner three. He 10 of his shots were inside the arc, and they were all either in transition or moving, cutting and getting under the basket, being completely ignored and wide open.
Yeah, but he's easily the best player on this team cutting to the rim. And when guys are focusing on LeBron in the post, AD in the post, it happened on Thursday. Everybody's looking at LeBron. He throws a bounce pass. Vando dunks it. It happened late against the Clippers where AD made a move to the middle of the paint. Vando's guy cut off of him, and instead of Vando being in the corner, he was at the elbow. And when his guy doubled, Vando just took a step down to the rim and is wide open. So there are ways to use him, and I think the Lakers have actually done a pretty good job of finding different ways of using him instead of putting him in the dunker spot or just putting him in the corner. I think there's been some creativity there, but there's still, it's a lot easier to talk Vando should play more after a game like tonight where he looked incredible. This might have been his best game as a Laker. I had to go back and look
probably was. Yeah.
Yeah. I had to go back and look up that Dallas game on the road last year to kind of compare. He had 17 rebounds in that game last year, but offensively, I think without a question, this was his best game as a Laker. So it's a lot easier on a night like tonight to say, yeah, play him more. There are limitations there. And that's why I kind of say it should fluctuate. Yeah. If he's 4 of 10, I don't know that you need to play him 25, 30 minutes.
Right. It's one of those deals where if you're using, I've always feel like this with Vanderbilt more than other players. If after every game you think Vanderbilt should have played 4 minutes more, you've probably played him the exact right amount.
Yeah.
I mean, because you've probably maximized his effectiveness, maximized his ability to do good. But the problem is if that number is, 14 minutes, maybe not. Jacob Rude, Silver Screen and Roll. You can read all of his stuff there. Thank you so much for hopping in. Really appreciate it. And go read all of Jacob's stuff. Thanks again. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with over 22,000 subscribers. We will be back after Saturday night's game. That is the plan. Kicking off the 6-game road trip, which we didn't really get a chance to talk about, but is a critical one for the Lakers. 6-game roadie, starting off with a very winnable game against a slumping Golden State squad. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll see everybody next time.